going to talk about, do we here in America even want electric cars? Because there are a few things happening. I know we're in the middle of a crisis, but there's some numbers coming out, on both sides about, Tesla and about all of their competitors, including GM and Ford, that are, pointing out to the fact that I don't think we really do want these cars here that much. Yes, we can talk about the infrastructure and the fact that if you live in an apartment complex or if you're a renter, you're probably not very likely to even have an opportunity to have a charger in your home, which kind of makes it very, very difficult to own an electric car. And the same goes for people in all states here in Canada. But it looks like that the reason that manufacturers are definitely favoring Europe and definitely China over the United States is because of the regulations and laws and incentives that are providing for the manufacturers on one hand and for the consumers on the other hand. Now, we already done stories about, for example, BMW iX3 that's going to be produced in China and sold in China and Europe, and they're not looking to come to America for another year at least. Same thing happened with the BMW EQC. One of the sponsors of the show, Burton, is obviously producing the cars in China for China first, and then going to Europe and then the United States. And there are some people like Volkswagen that are completely, not even going to consider selling their ID3 here as well. Why? It all comes down to the regulations. China and Europe have very strict regulations about, hey, if you're a car company that's making cars, you got to start cutting out, all of your, polluting cars and start selling so many electric cars and more with every year. Unfortunately, here in the United States, we're not doing that. We're actually, in the last few years, relaxed the emissions policies, and we haven't really renewed the $7,500 tax credit. We haven't really done that much to compel these manufacturers to not only make these cars here, but definitely sell. Now, there was just a report that General Motors and Ford together are planning to sell less cars in 5 years, in 2026 really, than Tesla sold last year. That's crazy, but it doesn't mean that they're going to be selling this many cars in the entire world. They're actually trying to sell 1 million electric cars in 5 years each at that time, but most of it are going to be sold in China and Europe. And obviously things might change if we have a change of administration. At the end of this year we have elections, and a new administration decides that we're actually going to join the civilized world and start pushing for the electric cars and green energy. Then things might change, right? All of a sudden GM and BMW and everybody else saying, whoa, now that you guys are serious, we want to play in this playground as well, right? Because it all comes down to money. Now, as we're also in this crisis, there's something else that's happening. And by the way, before I go any further, I have a great guest to join me here live, and we'll answer your questions in a second. Eli Burton, and let me, as you guys know, we usually do a weekly segment, Supercharged with Eli Burton, but today he's just hanging out with us, so I'm gonna bring him in and have him help me with this next topic, which is, do we want this electric cars here, especially because of not just the regulations, but the demand, and what is going to happen after this crisis, and we're probably going to go into recession. Eli, how you doing, my friend? Welcome to the live stream. We're going to answer some questions. I see there's already super chat there, by the way. Thank you. How you doing, my friend? Oh, your mic is your mic.
It's on now. I gotta say, I'm a little bit exhausted because we had to record our segment twice. Yes. But other than that, I'm doing pretty good, Alex.
Yes, we did just record our segment, and almost at the end of it, we were like, oh, we weren't recording. Actually, it was just a rehearsal. So, all right, listen. Let me ask you this, and then we'll start answering questions in the chat. Now, besides the regulations that I just mentioned, and this is why these manufacturers, especially legacy manufacturers, don't really want to sell, and because they don't have to sell electric cars here. But as we're coming out of this recession, as at some point we will be, they will concentrate. And I talked to a few manufacturers already, to some of their PR people, and they're saying, listen, what we're probably going to start producing is the cars and selling that will make us the most money, which is gas cars. We're not making money on electric cars yet, so there might be some step back there. However, they've also committed so much money already, so they kind of have to move forward. What do you think? What do you think about that? I mean, do you think that we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot with this country, and do you think this recession will also, unfortunately, contribute to that?
Well, I mean, we didn't exactly sign up for this recession, right? So, COVID-19 kind of shot us all in the foot. And yeah, so here's the thing that's interesting. GM, did commit however many billions, blah, 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 but that's mostly on paper. They haven't spent that money. They haven't put that into factories. They haven't put that into ramping. And basically what they've shown by their predictions or their projections, if the article in Teslarati is correct, that they're going to produce 365,000 electric cars by 2025 or 2026, that they clearly have not spent very much of that money, and they're now not going to. But their plans are changing. Let me interrupt that. Have to.
Let me interrupt that, because Teslarati likes do pull Fox News on us sometimes, because we really have to be careful. That's not correct what they're saying. They're not just going to be producing this many cars. They're just how many they're going to be producing and selling in the United States. They actually have pretty good goals worldwide. They are going to be selling a million of those.
That.
So
US electric cars.
So let's get all right, go on. Sorry, I just as soon as I said Teslarati, I was like, oh, fact check. All right, but go on.
US electric cars. I don't remember where I was going. You cut me off.
Sorry. You were going with the fact that they're not going to be selling they're going to be selling less cars in 5 years that Tesla's already sold last year as far as electric cars are concerned.
Yep, and yes, and less than they're going to sell this year entirely, 100%.
Yeah. All right, so let's take some. Before we move any further, and before I forget here, let me pay my bills really quick, and mention that this channel and okay, I gotta cut this out, right? This channel in this video is sponsored by Burton. Check out their all-electric SUV. They're gonna start selling in China first, but then Europe and the US next year. You can reserve one absolutely free. Go to the description of this video to get one yourself, and also Evanex, the aftermarket accessories for Tesla. Use E for Electric, the name of this channel, for purchases as a discount code for purchases over $100, or just use the link in the description of this video as well. All right, so it looks like we agree. Well, okay, so let me just ask one more question before we go into the audience. Do you agree that here in the United States we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot? We have not moved fast enough and strong enough in making these manufacturers, and forcing their hand into making electric cars, and we're not really doing that much for the consumers, especially on a federal level anymore, to want to buy these cars.
Well, we still have the $7,500 tax credit at the federal level, which is very substantial and was very critical to key to Tesla in the early years as well. But where we're failing is on the regulatory side. Europe is being very aggressive and forcing these automakers to go electric, and is fining them that they're actually buying, the carbon credits from Tesla because they're not meeting the EU standards. So EU is being much more government regulatory, forcing them, setting in dates at which they're no longer going to be legally allowed to sell new gas cars. And this current administration has no interest in doing that. So we're not putting the legislative pressure that's necessary to actually force these manufacturers to go electric. In fact, the current administration has talked about rolling back standards on even miles per gallon requirements. Like, we're going the other way. Like, if we were them and didn't care about anything but our profits, why would they ramp up making electric cars here when they can just keep making as much money as they can on their gas cars?
All right, agree. Now, let me bring something else. Now, we live in California. We have a very liberal, pro-Green Deal, all of that stuff government, right? But they're not doing something that I thought is absolutely essential, and I hope you agree to adopting electric cars, which is when you're building an apartment complex or you're moving in a new tenant into your residence as a landlord, you absolutely have to either already have dedicated charging stations or install one at the request of the tenant. Now, the law right now says, yes, you have to install it, but the tenant has to pay for it, which could be thousands and thousands of dollars, which is not really reasonable. Do you think there is something to be said about governments that are local, in our California governments, where they need to provide the infrastructure before the people are even going to want to buy electric cars?
Yeah, I think sooner rather than later, California municipalities, and most importantly, the state, needs to make it a mandate for any new complex being built that per X number of size, that there be X number of charging stations, 100%. And I think there's some complicated aspects of that are going to have to be solved, right? Like, the owner of the building shouldn't necessarily be responsible to pay for people's charging electricity. So there's some components of this and logistics of this that are going to have to be worked out. But yeah, absolutely. The same way any new home built requires solar, it makes sense that pretty soon any new apartment complex built requires an EV charging setup.
Yeah, and I would mind saying like, okay, listen, you're gonna spend $2,000 or $3,000 to install a charging station, but you can't just charge it all to the tenant that's there right now. You can divide it.
I mean, that's where you jump in with subsidies. I think that's the next direction in California that'd be really important. I know they're doing a good job subsidizing the adoption of electric vehicles, but they also need to subsidize the installation of electric vehicle charging equipment. And they do some, but I think that needs to be more aggressive, and I would love to see that be a mandate for all new apartment complexes over whatever.
Right, because size. I lived in Silicon Valley until very recently, and I see all these multi-billion-dollar complexes apartment complexes coming up, and not a single charger, because I don't even know, like, do they not want Tesla owners there or BMW i3 owners there? That's kind of weird. But subsidies, I agree, but I think the law should also be more clear about, like, you can't dump the entire cost on a tenant. You can charge a tenant extra $50 or $100 for an opportunity to have a charger because it's a service, and then over time you can get your money back or the money for the next one. But you can't tell a tenant, yeah, you're paying $2,000 a month or even less here in Sacramento, but we're going to charge you $3,000 so you're here for a year, for sure, so you can save $50 on gas a month. I think that's where we should catch up.
I 100% agree. And I think making it a requirement for any new developments makes sense, because then it's just being baked into the construction plans, baked into the design for new construction. And that's what it actually costs the cheapest. Same way we're doing it with solar. I think it makes sense to do that for electric vehicle charging for any new complex over a certain minimum number of occupancy.
All right. Let's go to the chat room. If you guys are watching us, you can on obviously on YouTube. You can do it on your mobile device or whatever. You can keep up with us. First, I'm gonna address the super chat. Laser Fur, thank you so much for $2. I normally I would say I would spend it at Starbucks, but I'm not bothering with drive-throughs. Like, it's like 30 minutes to wait for my hot chocolate. But he says $10,000 at 8-year 400-mile range crossover with hitch. Eli, do you know what that means?
No.
I don't know either. But so Laser 4, thank you for the super chat. Please clarify what you meant. But I'm gonna start over. With a great username. A635823 says my budget when my car died last March was $16,000. I have days with road trips of 120 plus miles freeway. All right. Environmental Canadian says, how much would you use Chevy Volt cost where you live? Okay, so Chevy Volt really can be, and Bolt can be very different depending on incentives. But I should point out that Chevy Volt, which I dearly love, and it's in my garage right now, is no longer being made or sold. Which I really, really am upset with GM, because they should have never discontinued that car.
I just saw a funny comment that we should run for office in California because we have great ideas. The fact that we have great ideas make us a terrible candidate for office.
Right, exactly. Yes. Reasonable opinions are not very popular right now. As a matter of fact, yeah, okay. No, I don't want to get political because people will start. All right. Let's see. Nice interview with Sandy Monroe. That's right. There's when we're taping, you guys haven't, this video is going to be released on Saturday, but you guys only saw one part. We're actually, there's another part coming up, and that's going to be tomorrow. All right. Courtney Ross says, anyone else here about ready to drop their kids off at school tomorrow? That's right. I know a lot of people. I'm used to working from home and I have no kids, pets, or roommates, but I know a lot of people, as much as they love spending time with their children, all of a sudden they're saying, no, we're ready to get rid of them. That's too much family time. So, yeah, people are growing crazy. How are you doing, Eli, with this whole isolation, social distancing thing?
It's been driving me wild, man. In fact, a few days ago, I had to break out and just go on a road trip that resulted in me almost getting stuck in the snow. I drove way too fast, hit too many different roadblocks and closed roads, made it back to the supercharger, and almost didn't make it back. So yeah, I had to go out and do something adventurous because just sitting at home has been killing me. Yeah. I don't do this ever. I leave my house every single day, and I'll often, like, right before this whole thing happened, I was traveling for a week across all of California, from Northern California all the way down to San Diego. I was at Disneyland, like I'm nonstop go, go, go. And then I have to flip it like a switch and just sit at home. It's been pretty depressing. I've made like no progress on starting my new channel because I just can't focus.
Yeah. Though I do have to say, I just walked around old Sacramento today, which was absolutely like a ghost town. And I was like, enjoy it while it lasts, because if you ever want to go back and walk around on all of this, it will be absolutely a zoo. So, speaking of the zoo, I was literally going to go to the zoo the day that they announced the lockdown. I was like, damn it, So I'd love to go to the zoo once everything opens up. All right. Let's see. Automated Future says, hell yeah. Also adds, Bolt, Model 3, Leaf are fantastic cars, but get a Tesla if you can. Absolutely agree. Eli, what's your opinion on that?
Get a Tesla if you can? Yeah.
Now, I do have to say that I did not get a Tesla, even though I could, because my Volt was, I got the Volt when I had a Tesla to make trips between here and the Bay Area, because I did not want to make a 2-hour trip in almost 3 hours by waiting to supercharge. But now I just drive the Volt because, running a YouTube channel as a small business is definitely not smart to drive in a $100,000 car, and especially now. Let's see. Carlos says fossil fuel industry is very powerful. It is, but I think sooner or later they will use their power, no pun intended, to start selling electricity and green energy rather than oil and gas. What do you think, Eli?
Yeah, see, I differ on this one. I mean, I think their game is definitely to be in global energy, and I think they're going to have a role in the future of global energy. But here's the problem. The thing about oil is oil's always been a source of control because it's been the main provider of energy, whether it be petroleum, whether it be gasoline, all these products coming out of the ground. You and me can't produce that on our own. They've had a iron grip on the global energy supply. Now with solar, that people buy panels once and for the next 20 years have a guaranteed rate of production, panels that are expected to last 30, where everybody has an oil derrick, not only an oil derrick, but a refinery and actually a converter into energy on their roof that they can then buy battery packs and store and not even interact with the grid. Like, no, I do not think oil is going to be a big, huge part of this. And two, I think the amount of money they can make is a fraction of what they can do with oil because they can basically control the price. A handful of producers control the supply, which means they can artificially set the price. So no, I think the amount of money to be made in clean energy is a fraction of what these guys have been able to do in oil because they've been screwing us for decades.
I gotta tell you, I think they're smarter than we give them credit for because they've grabbed us by our kahunas, right? All of this time. So I think they will do it again.
I'm not saying they're not going to get in the space, and I'm not saying they're not going to try and hoard rare earth minerals that are required to make batteries. I'm just saying they're not going to retain the power position that they had because they're not making the moves right enough. And again, initially I thought Saudi Arabia was making a really smart play with that huge investment in Tesla, and then they sold it at like $280 a share right before they ran up. So I was shocked by that.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I think they'll be fine. So all right, we don't.
I don't want them to be fine. I hope they're not fine.
I'm not saying I hope. I think they're going to be fine. I'm just, you know what I mean. I'm just kind of saying that I don't think they're going to go away. Though I hope they become smaller and other new companies, including Tesla, because Tesla is also an energy company, will squeeze in.
They will become smaller. There's not a doubt. They just, I mean, they're a multi-trillion-dollar industry on their own. There's individual players in this that are worth trillions of dollars. They won't have that kind of wealth when oil no longer becomes a major necessity for global energy.
All right, let me give a quick shout out to Kevin Breeze. He is one of tech YouTubers who's actually joined us, and $2 in super chat. I appreciate that, Kevin. He says, "Hey man," he just wanted to say hi. We actually met a couple of times in Vegas when we went for the CES. When we go to CES, we go to two different areas. He goes to the main one with all the tech, and I go to the one with cars and electric cars and charging and all of the stuff. But thanks, Kevin, for joining. Let us know. Do you have an opinion as a tech YouTuber about what are the most exciting cars? I mean, I'm going to assume you say Tesla. But what is it from the specifics of like technology that people outside of our Tesla electric car bubble that people actually enjoy? So let me know. But thanks for joining me now. I see another question here. I'm all over the place. So I know there was a question about EQC. Oh, it's right after that. Douglas Thompson says, when is EQC coming to the US? Well, it was supposed to be coming this year. And actually, I was really looking forward to it because they were pricing it at around $60,000. So after the incentives, it becomes a $50,000 a car. And I got to tell you, I love that car. I love the way it looks, and I love the way it drives. And I drove it in a traffic hour during the like peak hours in Frankfurt, which gave me an anxiety attack. And I was with Tom Malogny, one of the other channel contributors. We both, but I still absolutely love the car. Now they've delayed that. We just, this video is about how we don't want electric cars here. Mercedes EQC is one of those cars where their manufacturer, Daimler, the parent company of Mercedes-Benz, said, you know what? Screw this. We got to satisfy all of these countries in Europe and in China that's making us make these electric cars. And so we're going to do that. What's the point of selling it in America where we don't really get any brownie points and we don't have to? And that's unfortunately why EQC is not in the United States this year. Hopefully next year. But again, all of this recession and stuff it might delay this. Have you had a chance to see one, Eli, the Mercedes-Benz EQC?
No, I'd love to. I haven't seen one in person.
All right. Well, I'd love to hear your opinion about this. Let's see.
Yeah, if you can get me access to one, I'd love to make a video. A Tesla owner drives the EQC.
Yes, that would be kind of cool. I know you've seen the e-tron and a couple of others, but yeah, they need to come here and have them on dealerships. So, all right. So let's see the next.
I see a question I can actually answer.
Okay, go for it, man.
Yeah. I got a solar roof and battery. It requires PG&E approval. Plus, I have to hook up to the grid. Is there a way to ditch PG&E? Unfortunately, the answer to that one is no. You are still stuck being paid for a connection to a provider. You don't have to use their energy, but yeah, you are stuck being connected to the grid. In fact, a friend of mine did this experiment called the Energy Sovereignty Project. And I'm actually going to be doing a video with him on my show as soon as this Corona lockdown thing ends. He lives about an hour from me. I'm going to go filming at his house. He did an entire system where he's got, I think, 12 kilowatts of solar, 90 kilowatts of storage. He lived off the grid for an entire year, and he actually flipped the switch where the grid doesn't even have any impact on his home. Doesn't matter. Not only does he still have to pay for his connection to the grid, they made him install, what is it, a 480 amp 480 amp pipe into his house because how much solar he has. Even though he was never going to use that kind of energy, they made him install this connector and pay extra for it, even though he doesn't even contribute or take a dime from the grid.
Yeah, I do have to say that the way things work right now, even you get, the solar roof or solar panels, you're still stuck with, hopefully not PG&E, with the utility company, but if you're stuck with PG&E, it's even worse. So,
and granted, you're not paying them much, but you can't ever truly shut them off.
Right. Well, hopefully in the future. We're talking about right now. So that's very unfortunate.
Unfortunately, I don't see that one changing because these companies have such large monopolies and a tight grip on government. I mean, look at the way the government has handled PG&E and the result of the fallout of the fires. PG&E was grossly negligent. Executive directors and board members or executives at PG&E should be going to prison for what they did. And they're effectively being allowed to pass on their mistakes to rate holders. So, I mean, in a blatant disaster like that, where they were 1,000% to blame. Oh, also too, now it's being acceptable that they just cut power to people every time there's high winds because they never improve their infrastructure. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be a very long time before any of these big old energy players lose their grip. And I think it's going to be the slow growth of people having their own energy. And eventually that hitting a critical mass that enough people say enough and say to the state that we're done with this. We've got our own energy. We don't need this nonsense anymore. But I think we're a long ways away from that tipping point. Yeah,
and people probably think we're joking. No, PG&E actually caused the fire where we had this, not only people dying, but people literally having to move away from the area. We had all of the hotels and, here of stuff, with refugees and people, the entire city of Paradise and many other areas were basically devastated and people lost their homes and not much happened with PG&E. And yeah, and yes, they do shut down the power when they feel like their crappy infrastructure is just about to fall down, literally. And so we have high winds. They're like, yep, no energy. We're not joking. This is how sad it is here in California, the fourth largest economy in the world. It's a shame. All right, let's move. Let me combine a couple of questions here. People are asking about NIO and BYD coming to the United States. Both are fine companies. I got to tell you guys, I have checked out both of them, and both BYD and NIO are great cars. BYD was actually #1 maker and a seller of electric cars in the world until very recently, when Tesla finally took that over, even though they only sell in China, and their cars are really cool. If you go to my Instagram, you'll see some of the cool features that they have. They have a vertical monitor. They can also rotate into a horizontal monitor, right? Model S, Model 3 in one kind of a concept. NIO has been doing nothing but selling electric cars in China. They have a little almost doll-like looking thing on their dashboard that you can talk to, and it's an assistant. They have the only company out there who have battery swapping stations where we can swap your battery in about 5 minutes. We have that video as well on this channel. So I like those companies. I wish they come here. NIO is actually being traded publicly on the New York Stock Exchange for some reason, but unfortunately they are not have any really, at least the indication that they're coming to us anytime soon. Probably the reason because GM even doesn't want to be here with electric cars. But BYD and BYD, they do make electric buses here in Southern California. I got an entire tour of their factory, which was really cool. That video is also on my channel, but unfortunately, guys, I'd love to, but they are not coming anytime soon.
Alex, just wanted to say, I got to jump off the live stream, man. I want to say thanks so much for having me on. It's awesome engaging with your audience with you. I love being on your channel weekly.
All right, man. Thanks. And don't forget, guys, we are putting together the video. What is this today? Thursday? Yeah, Thursday. Okay, so our video is going to come up on Saturday. So check out that video, me and Eli. Eli, thanks for joining me, man. And I will see you soon. All right. Stay healthy. All right, guys. Let me keep going here and answer maybe a few other questions. Steve says, Alex, before I moved, I own the rental properties, and the problem, how do you go about increasing rent in the rent controlled building? The fear landlord has is going in front of the rent control board costly. Well, that's why this needs to be a kind of a statewide solution, or maybe even federally, but let's just talk about the state, right? Where you mandate that, and then you allow the rent to be increased. And again, you don't have to pay the extra, only if you want. The charging station needs to be there, and you need to so hopefully the subsidies will help. But this is just one of those things that you do for if you're a landlord of any kind. You install the charging station. Again, it can actually run not as much as people think. And then only if the tenant wants to, then you're allowed to charge an extra, let's say $50 a month or whatever. It could be a percentage, no more than, let's say, 3% of the rent price. That's how you do it. I mean, with just common sense, I think. So, all right. Let's see. I just scrolled and lost everything. Okay, let's see. Kevin Breeze says, I'm excited for autonomous driving for sure. Yeah, there was just a video today that Elon Musk retweeted of a Tesla stopping, using the autopilot, stopping automatically on the red light. I really hope when they do roll it out for real that this feature is 100%, because, a mistake can really cost people a life, and I really hope that they've really tested this before they roll it out. But yeah, autonomous driving is going to change everything, and it's going to save lives, right? We have about what 40,000 people dying every year in car accidents, and I think that like 1 million people are actually injured. That will take care of that. I mean, slowly but surely. Let's see. Sorry, I have to scroll up and down. Dino says, uphill battle with big oil that own politicians. That is true. Steve says, Alex, wait a second. Can you answer this? In my new home, I got solar roof and battery. It requires PG&E approval, plus I still have to hook up the grid. Is there a way to ditch PG&E? I think we just answered that. Unfortunately, there is no way to ditch PG&E, and Eli believes that there will be no way for a while to do that. That's unfortunate, but at some point we have to. I hate to sound like an MTV in the 90s, but you gotta vote for. You gotta figure out if this is very, very, very important to you, and then you gotta vote for politicians who are actually implementing it. But at the same time, you also gotta call them up once in a while, just old school, and say, hey, this is what, or they have email now and everything. you can spend 5 minutes googling who your congressman is, who your local assembly person is, and congresswoman, and then you just like say, hey, listen, this is what I care about, please, do this and this and this. Enough of us do that. They kind of have to do that. Like, that has more power than you think. Let's see. Let me scroll. Okay, Steve says, Kevin, for self-driving and Tesla, they have to droop Google Map and do their own drop. I drop Google Map and do their own. Google has misdirected me many times. Actually, Steve, I had a different experience with Tesla. A lot of times I use the Google Maps as a navigation system separately rather than using the Tesla navigation. Now, I don't know. I haven't had a Tesla in a while, but I believe, and especially in the cars from the previous generation for sure, it was Google Maps, but the navigation system was for Tesla. So if anything, because you said Google has misdirected me many times. Well, Tesla misdirected me a few times, and most importantly, Tesla just doesn't do a good job, Tesla navigation, figuring out when you're going to get to the destination, where Google's done a great job. Almost like I can be driving for 2 or 3 hours and it will still tell me within a 2-minute margin when I'm going to get there. No matter what I do, somehow they end up being right. So I actually like Google over Tesla navigation myself. Brian Foster says GM and Ford want gas guzzling SUVs and will spend very little on electric cars. Brian, I think you're wrong. It's not that the GM and Ford want the guzzling SUVs. It's that us as the country want gas guzzling SUVs. And as a matter of fact, I don't even think people care if it's gas guzzling. I think they would be perfectly fine with electric if it was at the very least the same price and the same pain point as the gas cars, which it is not. So GM and Ford, they're corporations. They want to make money, all right? And right now, just like pretty much all the legacy manufacturers, they make money on gas cars. And especially now that we're obviously in a recession, they're going to have to dig themselves out by maximizing profits. And unfortunately, the profits right now are with gas guzzling SUVs in the United States. So it's not that they want to make them. I just went and toured the GM factory in Detroit. I spent like 2 days with their staff and talking. I also talked to Mary Barr, the CEO of GM, personally for a little bit. It does look like they're excited about this. Like, I've asked some like regular workers, I'm like, hey, how do you feel working on this weird electric cars? And like, no, we really like it. We really like that we're doing something that's, part of the future. So, from people up there, and obviously Mary, we're not BFFs, so she could have said whatever, but I kind of felt her heart was in it from my conversation with her. But even the regular people who work at those factories really believe in this. So I think they want to make them, or at least they're not opposed to making them, but we're giving them the profits through the gas guzzling SUVs here in the United States. Environmental Canadian says, hey Alex, have you ever watched Lex Friedman, another Russian American? I don't know. I don't know who he is. He teaches AI at MIT and has a YouTube channel. He interviews, his interviews of Elon Musk are great. No, I have not seen him. I'll check him out. Let's say someone was asking about the Cybertruck possibly being an SUV. Yeah, I mean, Rivian did it, and Escalade, I believe, has the same thing, and the Hummer had the same thing. Is you just, you close it up. I don't know. I mean, technically Tesla already has an SUV, right? So I don't think they're gonna go that route. If they were gonna plan doing that in the first place, I think they would have already done it with the Cybertruck. I think what we saw is what we're gonna get. Obviously, there will be mirrors. There will be quite a few other things, some modifications. Some people believe that they will have to do a lot, as a matter of fact, to make it road legal and a lot of other things. Obviously we've talked about, it's not being fitted, people not being able to fit it in their garages and stuff like that. So there will be some modifications, but as far as what the product is, I think that's that. And again, Tesla is going to be also trying to dig themselves out of this mess, probably not just for months and quarters, but probably for years. So I think anything new an additional will be halted. And don't forget, Tesla still has a semi-truck and a Roadster second generation to produce. They just started making Model Y. They have their hands full, and they'll continue having their hands full. So I think what what we got from them right now is what we get. Let's see. Are there any manual electric school buses in California? Asks David. You know what? I don't know. I don't see. I mean, I think most of the buses we have, school buses, are still diesel. I haven't seen anything. Bill, I do know that our like school districts are really kicking butt in terms of green energy. I mean, I have not seen school recently, whether middle or whatever or high school, without a parking lot that's covered with the covers are all the solar batteries on the roof. So overall, our state has been pretty green in terms of the green energy and electric cars and stuff like that. Okay, I don't know why I have this in my ear since I already since Eli is already left, so I'll do that. Ah, man, whew, my ear feels so much better, and I sound better in my head too. Steve says PG&E has admitted to be the cause of the fire by Napa County. The penalty, I think, was $500 million to pay to the victims of the fire. It may be less, as I don't remember the exact amount. Yeah, we did not punish them very well at all, I think, and half a billion is not, it at all. We should have forced them to get into to upgrade their infrastructure. We should have forced all of their executives out. We should have, some of them should have gone to jail because obviously people died and property has been destroyed because of negligence. And I think they should have also been forced into providing more green energy and all of that stuff. So it's we did not do a good job. Mike says that I reckon they should spin off. I guess you meaning recommend. They should spin off Cyber as its own company. That's interesting. Tesla spinning off Cyber as yeah, I can see that. They probably won't do it, but I can see that. Let's see. Bill Robinson says electric cars are so cool. Once hot rodders realize how much superior electric drivetrains are compared to ICE, there will be no going back. Absolutely agree. Let's see. H2 Rider says Mercedes-Benz EQC low range and high consumption, less than most other models. What's a low range? I feel like any range over 200 miles is more than enough for like 99% of people. My electric range on my Volt is like 40 miles, and I pretty much never use gas unless I have to go to the Bay Area, which originally what I bought it for. 200 miles, that's a lot. So, I disagree. High consumption, less than most other models. People don't care about that stuff. You guys gotta cut that out. Like, no one ever bought a Mercedes and goes like, whoa, that engine is not consuming this all of this gas in the correct way. It's not being very efficient. No one who buys a Mercedes says that. So they're not going to say that about their battery either. So, and I think 200 plus mile range is perfectly fine. I would get one. My Model S 60 kilowatt hour battery, when I had it, I think realistically had like 160 mile range. Never had a range anxiety at all. Let's see. Steve says, so it's not Google, but Tesla navigation thinks I was wrong. This needs to be fixed. Tesla now has navigation and autopilot working together. Yes. Laser Force says the super chats are limited to 50 characters. I was trying to say that what kind of car I wanted, but I'm in the used market and I have less to say. I also want a car that can be repaired. Well, obviously repairing electric cars are a little bit more complicated, but dealerships that sell them will work on them. I'm not sure if like people can do it in their garages as well. Interesting thing to talk about Rich Rebuilds, who's one of the contributors to this channel. We did talk about it actually, and he did recommend some of the smaller tasks that people can do in their garages. So check that out, that video. It's on my channel. And Laser Fur, I just produced a video about, I literally spent like an entire day on the internet looking for cheap used electric cars, and I put out a video that you can see. I think it's the last 10 videos that I produced. Used electric cars under $10,000. There's one car for $12,000, but it's a BMW i3, so I figured I'd throw it right in there. But check that out. I hope it will be useful to you. Let's see. Dino says with his COVID, 19, those two guys on YouTube has reduced emission in big cities, that the environment is starting to clear up. Yes, but it will come back. I mean, it will come back. Let's see. Kevin says, Alex, I love you. I appreciate that. I love you back. Roy says, when you see a 600-mile range out of EV, it will be more practical for the average person. Roy, I actually disagree. I think the technology will go there, but I think at some point, people will be like, I don't need the 600-mile range. Why would I pay? The most expensive part of the electric car is a battery. So why did I just pay an extra whatever, 30-40% of the cost of the car for the stuff that I don't really need? Don't forget, we don't drive more than 50-60 miles a day. 200 is crazy a lot. And when you charge your car every night, you refill your tank every day, so you don't need it. And the infrastructure is being built like as we speak. By the end of this year, Electrify America, if we go together, going to have a ridiculous number. I wouldn't say ridiculous number, but a good number of fast chargers, fast charging stations. And in Europe, Ionity and others there are also pretty much blanketing the Europe with those. They're going at a faster rate that the Tesla superchargers are being built. So I don't see a need for a 600-mile range for most people. Dino says, what does Tesla do with trade in ICE cars? So actually I can answer that because I actually used to own a used car dealership a while back in my 20s. So I basically what happens is, if the dealership is not going to sell a car, they either trade it to another dealership, in which I'm sure Tesla is not doing that. But what happens is you go to this car auction where only car dealers go, and you basically let this car go for whatever people, other dealers usually bid on it, because only dealers are allowed there. And then you get rid of those cars that way. And a lot of times dealers will still make money on that. Like, you'll trade in your Prius and they'll give you like $3,000 for it, but at the auction it will go for $4,000, and whoever buys it at that dealership will sell it for $6,000, for example. That's why when you're trading the car in, you're essentially allowing two people to make money on that car, right? The car auction, whoever you sold it to, and they're going to be selling at the car auction, and then whoever bought it and resold it. So just FYI. That's why I never ever trade my car in. I always sell it straight up. Let's see. By the way, Laser4, I do appreciate the super chat, and also Kevin, I appreciate the super chat as well. By the way, if you guys are joining us, we originally were talking about whether or not we won the electric cars in the United States. My answer is that not really, because we have not voted for the politicians or demanded it from our politicians that they do what pretty much all European countries and China have done, where not only require the manufacturers to produce so many electric cars every year, more and more and more, but also given more and more incentives to their consumers. As you know, Tesla and GM now have their $7,500 tax credit completely expired, and there's nothing coming anytime soon. And I don't expect it to, maybe as a part of a bailout or something like that. So companies like all legacy manufacturers have no reason to sell their electric cars in the United States as much as they want to sell them in Europe and in China, because they can sell them there easier, and it satisfies the mandates from those governments, because otherwise they're just going to have to pay penalty for not selling as many green cars. Like, for example, what is the FCA, the Chrysler, it just escaped me. Anyway, one of the largest manufacturers in the FCA, they are buying like literally over $1 billion, from what I understand, in green credits from Tesla in Europe, just so they don't have to pay more penalties. So that's just crazy. Tesla's going to make some good money on that, and they have been making this type of money from other manufacturers in Europe and in the United States as well. Electrified Fuchsia says, Alex, do you think Ford will delay the release of the Mach-E because of the virus issues? Right now we just don't know. Hopefully not, but I think everyone's going to delay everything. So the first year, I believe, the first batch is pretty much completely sold out for Mach-E. But I can reach out to them and ask, but I'm sure the answer is going to be like, dude, this thing just hit us, okay? And we're all working from home. Just let us figure out what's going on. I think I think everybody will know more is once we believe that we fought the virus off and mainly, and we have it under control, and will allow people to go outside and go back to work, like, you know, that's what they have right now in China. At that time, I think everyone will estimate the damage, right? Like I said, you know, companies, like all manufacturers, will be like, all right, let's see, do we still have our workers here? Do our suppliers are still with us? What about their suppliers, right? There's 3 tiers of suppliers. You know, someone's, you know, supplying us with car seats, but, you know, there's a supplier who supplies them with the leather, and there's a supplier over there that supplies them with the original, you know, whatever the leather made out of, okay? Cows, I guess. So, you know, like, and if that guy who's been producing, you know, making cows for these guys is out of business because he couldn't last for this long, well, those seats are not going to be made because they're going to have to find a third tier supplier again, and that might take time. So once they figure out what the hell is going on and how much of their operations have fallen apart and how fast they can put it back together, I think then they will be able to tell us, like, okay, you know. But I gotta tell you, here's what they're probably gonna do, because this is gonna be all about profits. You know, companies like Ford will be like, listen, whatever stuff we have from the suppliers that are still with us, we're gonna make sure that our gas cars are being made, because that's how we make money. And if we have something left, that's what's going to go for the electric cars, because we're not making money on them yet. The only thing I can imagine is that maybe they've already signed some contracts where they've committed all this money and they kind of have to go with it. But I would say we need to wait and see where we're at, where they're at, and then they're going to give us probably a better estimation. But right now, I don't think they know. Environmental Canadian says, hey, Alex, glad to hear you're giving the perfect political advice to your followers, that being, 1, vote for politicians that don't take donations from the rich. 2, phone your representatives. Agree with phone your representatives, or email the representatives. This really does work, guys, especially on a local level. I've done it before, and it literally helped me with some of my problems that I had with my business that I had before this one. I own a hair salon, believe it or not. So, you know, it's hard to vote, especially here in the United States. It's hard to, you know, basically completely dismiss those politicians that don't take money from corporations, because that's how the world goes around here. But I think people need to figure out, is the green energy and environment, how important it is for them, right? And then based on that, they need to select the candidates that are more likely to make the changes. You know, I think that's reasonable. I'm not even being political. I think it's kind of reasonable. I mean, some people might say, listen, I don't care about environment. I lost my job. I'm going to vote for the guy who gives me my job back, for example, right? And I understand that, but, you know, I obviously, like, I don't have kids, and I still want the planet to be here, even when I'm gone. And so that's a high priority for me. But, you know, different people have different priorities, and you can't force them into changing that. All right, Roy says, I have a Volt, love it. I have never met a person who owns a Volt and doesn't love it. I didn't think I was gonna like it. To me, that was really a point A to point B vehicle when I was gonna go from Sacramento to Bay Area to visit, you know, and I absolutely fell in love with it. But sorry, go on. Okay, I should probably read. Roy says, it works great for what I use it for. If I had an all-electric in the rural area, it wouldn't be very practical on the long trips. Absolutely agree. Trevor says, good chat, Alex. Please keep the movement going. I appreciate it. Thank you for joining. I appreciate it. We actually have over 100 people watching. That's cool. Steve says, can solid state batteries go 600 miles and be cheaper in cost? Isn't that what Elon will be talking about at the Battery Day? Well, we don't know what he's going to be talking about at the Battery Day. I don't think they've figured out the solid state batteries just yet. Though recently Samsung claimed that they have. And yes, we will get cheaper solid state batteries that will go probably even more than 1,000 miles. And best thing about it is actually they can be charged really, really quick, because they don't have as much resistance, so then they don't heat up, because the whole problem is the heating up. But just like everything in the beginning, it will be more expensive than lithium ion, and then it will start coming down. But it's going to be a while. I mean, I talked to I forget who I talked to. I think it was Sandy Monroe. That's right, Sandy Monroe on this channel. He's one of the monthly contributors. He said that he doesn't believe that the solid state battery is something they're going to achieve anytime soon. So just FYI. But yeah, I would love that. Solid state batteries is where it's at. That's where the future's at. All right. Bill Robinson says from Saskatchewan, Canada. I love your channel, Alex. Thank you. I appreciate it. Any word of Atlas will actually produce its truck? So they're having another like a battery day for us, for the media, but I think they will also broadcast it for everybody else. I gotta tell you, right now, I'm rooting for them just like everybody else. I'm not really sure. See, they haven't made themselves available to the media as much as like other companies, so I wasn't able to kind of find out what they're all about. Like they invited us to the battery day, but they didn't even reply to like the questions that we had before about traveling to it and stuff like that. They did not cover travel for the media as normally manufacturers do, except for Tesla, so they have not been very communicative, I would say. So I don't know, rooting for them, but I don't know. Steve says, I'm now watching Counting Cars while celebrating old ice cars, which celebrate old ice cars. It's about a shop in Vegas that refurbishes old cars. I think we have to change the average American thinking. I agree, but I think it's by showing how much better the electric cars are, but also providing the infrastructure. Dino says, you know what, I'm actually gonna, I got a super chat. Electrify Future. $14.99. I know why such exact amount. Am I supposed to buy something for that particular amount? But listen, I appreciate it. Electrify Future says, Alex, you have been one of the only channels that has shared truly honest feedback of all electric cars. Keep it up. I appreciate it. Now, by the way, let me just say something. I know most of the channels out there that dedicate themselves to electric cars are Tesla only. And I know they're usually run by, Tesla fanboys, and their opinions are really, really up there. But we need them as well. Like, I love Zach and Jesse, for example. I think they're wrong about pretty much everything that's outside of the Tesla bubble, but I want them to be popular, and because their opinion needs to be countered by the uneducated, I love my gas truck and I paid electric cars opinion on the other side. So we need all of them. But I appreciate it. My channel, I really wanted to make sure that we discuss all cars, not just Teslas, and we don't just blindly root for any brand. We actually be critical of whatever that's going on, even in our community, because, if you think about it, a lot of Tesla fanboys, they work against themselves, right? Electrify Future, I'm still kind of answering your question or comment. Why would you not want someone criticizing Tesla when they're not doing a good job, when they're screwing their own customers, where they're not providing parts or service? You want people like me criticizing them and them having to reply, because you as a Tesla owner actually will benefit with a better service, faster repairs, overall better quality. But if you're going to shut me up, right, or at least would want me to shut up about it, then you will continue not having, because Tesla will have no reason, just like any car company or any producer of any good, why would they have to improve it? So essentially, I don't even have a Tesla, and I think it's my job to call them out when they're not doing a good job. And you Tesla fanboys benefit from that. So I don't quite understand it, but my side, and there are very few other electric car YouTubers who kind of doing the same thing. Obviously, Nikki with Transport Evolved, Rich Rebuilds, kind of has his own thing. He's one of the contributors to this channel. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. I know there are a couple ones like Sean Mitchell, but I don't know if he's really, I know he was Tesla at first, just like me, and he switched, but I don't know. Yeah. Let me move on. Patrick says, I want an electric car. However, it's hard now to justify an electric vehicle with gas being 99 cents a gallon in some parts of the USA. By the way, there's still $3. Like, I just drove by the gas station. I was like, let me look. It was $3, just so you know, for the cheapest one. Whatever, it's 89? 89 is the cheapest, right? But also, Patrick, don't forget, this is not permanent. I mean, things will come back up, and the gas will still be, just as expensive. But it's also about savings in other ways. Like, you don't have to do tune-ups or oil changes or transmission fluid changes and all that stuff, and you don't have to go to the gas stations. You spend 7 seconds every day on plugging your car in and unplugging it, and boom, it's all good. You don't have to smell that crap or have a homeless guy ask you for change, or just like it's better in many other ways. All right. Environmental Canadian also says, I love my Volt. See? And it was the first generation Volt that wasn't nearly as nice as the second generation Volt. Yes, I hear that from the first generation Volt owners as well. And yes, we have better range, better interface, and overall it's a better car. And still, first generation Volt owners. And you can get that car so cheap right now. It's ridiculous. Dino says, we'll be looking into EV crossover. My wife has a handicap issue with low riding cars like Tesla, and I got issues with their costs right now as well. Yeah, I mean, and this is why I'm rooting for so many other electric car companies or even legacy companies that are making electric cars, because we want them for many reasons. Terry Lane says, hi Alex, have you ever looked into liquid metal batteries from Ambry for cheap grid storage? I have not looked into any type of batteries, honestly, especially for a grid storage. I don't have I'm not looking to install the Tesla, the kind of battery storage or solar panels or solar roof on my house, because honestly, the company that provides electricity here in Sacramento is very green. Most of it is green energy, and if not all, by the way. When I lived in Santa Clara, California, I paid extra to make sure that my electricity comes only from green sources, so I don't have to have it on my roof. And honestly, I don't know how long I'm going to live here, so I don't want to invest into something that's not going to be beneficial for me. And if I rent it out, I don't know if that's that's going to help me that much. I love my Bolt, says John. There you go. Bolt owners, I mean, the Bolt is right here. Not a fan of the way it looks. I saw the way the next generation Bolt looks when I visited Detroit, and they didn't let us take pictures or videos, but I can tell you, I always describe it this way. Imagine that they hired the same designer who refreshed the latest Prius. Think what he would do with this, and the front end is going to be very much refreshed, kind of very modern, but the back end is just going to be still same, except for it will be in a newer design, but it will definitely still be very much the same type of a back end. And the profile, is it profile? Yeah, from the side. From the side, the car looks very, very similar. Now they have a longer base, what is it, SUV it's called? No, CUV. But it's still kind of just a little bit longer, a longer Bolt. But people who have Bolts, they love it. If it wasn't for the shape, I so would buy one. By the way, they have like $10,000 off in addition to everything right now, so you can lease it for ridiculously cheap. So if you guys don't mind the way Bolt looks, I would go and get one right now. It's so cheap. All right. Silver GT says Tesla should use miles per kilowatt hour like my Fiat 500e. I get between 4 and 5 per kilowatt hour. What do you mean use? For what? Depends, right? Creator Generator says Ford and GM profits are down. They are, I believe, before the pandemic. Will they survive after it? Oh yeah, they're so freaking rich. They're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna go belly up. Plus, this is gonna be temporary, I think. So I think they'll be fine. And I believe there's already bailout, but there will be more, I believe. To make EVs, will they get bailouts? Do they? Oh, you were ahead of me. Do they deserve bailouts? Listen, here's the thing. General Motors is not a person, Do they deserve it? I hate the word deserve, right? Don't forget, they employ a lot of people. Right? I was just in Detroit, and they just finally recovered. At least it looked great to me. I fell in love with the city because it was in ruins just a few years ago, right? A decade ago. Do they deserve it? I think people who work for them deserve it. I think we need our American manufacturers to thrive. And in this time, before that, yes, I know we had a recession, but also they were making crappy cars. This time around, they are definitely making better cars and they're competing better, but they just announced the shift to electrification. They just made a deal with LG Chem to produce their own batteries on their own platform. They've showed us, they haven't showed you guys yet, and we weren't able to tape or take pictures, but they've showed us 10 different models that they're working on right now. Yeah, I would definitely do that. Now, don't forget, last time we bailed them out, they paid us back with interest. We, as the taxpayers, made money on them. So, and they now make better cars. So I think everybody won. If we're having the same type of a deal this time around, I would be all for it. And I think everybody should be. The American people should get a bailout, says Silver GT. Well, you give money to the corporations like them that hire, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. You essentially giving them money to continue paying those people. Now, of course, I hope there are strings attached, right? They can't get our money and then give hundreds of thousands of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars as bonuses to their execs and lay off people. Like, we shouldn't allow them to do that. But I think it worked out all right the last time around. I would be okay if we do that, especially if we get our money back plus the interest. I think we're good. Trevor says, for those looking for used EVs, so the Cadillac ELR and Mercedes-Benz B250E seems to be forgotten by YouTube makers. The B250E, wasn't that the ugly van by Mercedes that has the Tesla technology? They didn't make that many, actually. And Cadillac ELR, I think it's a plug-in hybrid, though, right? It was like a Cadillac on top of the really Chevy Bolt platform. No, that's not even that. Oh, Chevy Bolt platform. I'll look into it. You're right. Where are they now? John says, are you coming back to Michigan in June for the Detroit Auto Show? Well, so the way this works is a lot of times I know I travel 2 or 3 times a month now, and then we'll probably come back. Obviously, hopefully we'll be okay by June. When brands invite me and other journalists out and they pay for our travel, because otherwise there's no way everybody can be traveling and spending a ridiculous amount of money. And it's actually pretty tough on your health. Like, if you go on vacation a couple of times a year, that's great travel. But when you work and you have to land, shave off 3 hours of sleep and then start working and then, work a lot, because a lot of times it's a full day, and then fly back, deal with the time changes and stuff like that. Like, it's not as awesome as it looks on my Instagram feed, okay? So if there will be a brand, which I'm assuming is probably going to be GM, that will fly me out and do that, then I'll go. And I definitely want to visit Michigan, Detroit. Besides being a Red Wings fan, I really fell in love with the city there. Really, really loved it. I got a great tour from one of the GM employees who was kind enough to do that, and I was like, wow, that is awesome. Steve says, I have to agree because of you bringing up Tesla terrible customer service. We now have mobile service. It would not have happened if this topic was never talked about. Thanks. Well, obviously, it wasn't just me. It's not like Tesla just listens to me. But I think enough of us bring it up. And also I run a relatively large Tesla Model S owners group on Facebook that I know is being monitored by Tesla. I always make sure that I do approve messages when people are seeking help or calling Tesla out on an issue, right? Because Tesla does see that, I believe. Dino says Volt is tiny for older folks. I don't think it's a matter of being older or younger. I think if you're 6'2", I'm 5'8", so I have no problem getting into my Volt. But if you're 6'2", then you might have a problem. But yeah. Bill Robinson says we're planning a renewable energy and EV trade show forum here in Saskatchewan this fall. Would you drop by and do a presentation? Again, Bill, I would love to, and I might even waive my fee for this, but because I do get speaking fees when I do get invited. But the travel, we gotta have to figure it out. But yeah, sure. I mean, I've done this before many times, so definitely PM me on Twitter under E4Electric, and we can talk. But thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it. Electrify Future says, Alex, when will you be able to release the new Volt videos? Well, what kind of videos would you like, actually? I'd love to, but what else can I tell you about it? By the way, did you guys enjoy my Facebook buys Tesla spoof fake news type of a video? I mean, I also did Apple buys Tesla, and I think Elon becomes CEO of Starbucks video. I'm thinking about doing the what was it? TeslaBuysMatch.com also. Let me know. Did you guys enjoy it? I don't know. Dino says my deceased brother had an old MG73-ish Bringy VMG. I don't even know what that is, actually. No bailout, reduce crappy cars. Well, people need to buy crappy cars as well. People who can afford nicer cars are more expensive. So, and again, we want our manufacturers here to provide jobs for us, right? And pay taxes. Brian says corporations get richer while we get $1,200. Of course, this would happen right before they were about already to go bankrupt. So I'm not familiar with a bailout package just yet. I know that I'm not getting one. So for example, I run a business, right? So what I get, I don't want to get into the taxes thing, but basically I made too much money last year, even though what I got paid last year was also for contracts into this year, right? But because everything was paid up last year, because I wanted my money up front, I ended up on the paper looking like I made too much money to be even qualified for this bailout, right? But right now, my revenues are about 80% down. So I'm one of those people who would definitely need it, but they're not counting on that. They're looking at my taxes last year, which I think is BS. Also, I'm a small business that can use the injection of this because I'm losing money right now. I have to, live off my savings for a while probably, and they're not doing crap for us, right? So I don't like it. I know it was a bipartisan and all of that stuff, but I think, and really, I understand $1,200 will help, but I think it will just let people live for another 2 or 3 weeks, and it's just not going to be enough, And yeah, you have to bail out the bigger corporations because those are the companies that paying, lots and lots of people, and those people pay, employee taxes, and the company pays the payroll taxes and stuff like that. So, yeah. Let's see. Brian says CEOs and insider trading does have layoffs and doesn't pay workers much. I'm not on the side of corporations because they employ some employees. Not really sure what you meant. Sorry. Dino says Biden seems expensive compared to Fisker Ocean. Well, Fisker. I mean, don't get me wrong. Again, I love the way Fisker Ocean looks, but they're like completely two different cars. First of all, let's see if Fisker goes in production, right? And then even if it does, Biden after the incentives, it starts at 45. And I think I'm trying to remember what is the Fisker Ocean starts at. Isn't that about like 35 or something? But there's plus incentives, but it's also got all those amazing screens that I'm paying for sure. Like that's what I'm getting it. So I think it's got a lot of other technology, which we don't really know what Fisker Ocean is really going to be, where Biden is much closer to the production. We know the range, we know the type of batteries they're going to use and so forth. So but listen, everybody decides for themselves. Like, I want the big screen, damn it. You know what I mean? Just like when I was buying Tesla, that wasn't very reasonable, but I wanted it. I wanted to contribute to the humanity by investing into a car and supporting a brand new car company. So what is this? Yeah, so but different people want different things. If you want Fisker, you buy Fisker. If you want Biden, buy Biden. That's why there's variety. Let's see. John says, thank you for being awesome. I thank you for being awesome, viewers. I appreciate it. Brian says, best video ever was your spoof. I appreciate it. So I'm going to work on one. I'll hopefully release it on Monday. Is Monday, April 1st? I just watched myself on the monitor delay or picking stuff off my lips, but my lips got chapped. Excuse me. I've been talking for too long. How long have I was on the air? Okay, we're over an hour. All right. Those of you guys, if you missed it, Eli was here. We were hanging out for a little bit, and he had to go. Let's see. April 1st is Wednesday. Well, all right, we'll see. Maybe I'll wait. But I do want to make another video and see if people continue liking it. How about Elon buys Microsoft? Yeah, listen, I'm open to suggestions. Like, Tesla buys something or something buys Tesla. Like, that's what I like. We're working on something funny with Eli as well, by the way. Brian says, can't wait for the Tesla Model 2. We need Tesla for $20,000. Yeah, I think it's coming. I don't have enough good sources inside Tesla that are telling me this, but from what I'm hearing, it will be coming. They kind of admitted to it when they were unveiling, I think, one of the Tesla Shanghai events. But yeah, that would be great. But don't forget, listen, a $20,000 Tesla is still going to be a $20,000 car, so it's going to be like bare minimum. It's not going to be an awesome car. It will still probably go 0 to 60 in like 20 minutes, and it will have one tiny little motor, and everything's going to be manual. So don't get too excited. Like, you might be better off with like a Kia Niro or something like that in that point. Luxury, like when a luxury car maker makes a cheap car, sometimes, it's not their thing. Sometimes you're better off buying from a cheaper, regular automaker in the same price range, because at least they put more effort into it, and then they know how to make cheap cars that are maybe not as cheap, I hope that makes sense. Brian says exactly. So many small businesses will die, and $1,200 is nothing. Thanks for saying that. Means a lot. We need each other. No, yeah. Listen, I'm also not a Democrat and not a Republican, right? Just like I'm not a Tesla fanboy, I'm not a Tesla hater. I'm not a Republican, or I'm not a Democrat. I am for like freaking our country and the humanity to do reasonable things, So I'm not against, big corporations getting the money, but as long as they're spending it on keeping their employees and not the bonuses or new buildings or whatever, right? Same thing here. If you're going to be giving out $1,200, do it smartly. Figure out who needs it right now, not who might have needed it last year. Another way around, right? And also help the small businesses. Like small businesses, we provide, I believe, like it says 80% of all jobs, like ridiculous amount of, definitely most jobs in the United States. And this is fourth small business that I run, and not a single time, and obviously I've gone through 2 recessions now, this would be the third one, not a single time, not a federal government, not our liberal California government has helped me even a little. So that's very unfortunate. And I'm pretty sure most business owners, small business owners will say the same. Neither party helped us in the times of need. So we're kind of on our own, unfortunately. Let me know if you're watching from a different country and if you guys are treating your small businesses a little better. Electrified Future says the MGEV is not in the US. Maybe that's why I'm not familiar. What does the MG stands for? I don't know. Let's see. PB78234 says, this virus deal is being walked back by the early doomsayers. People need to get back to work. Here's the thing. We know what happened in China, right? That's sort of what's going to be happening with us. And unfortunately, the data is a little bit, whatever channel you're watching on TV and rely on, the numbers are all delayed, right? Because and they're getting better, right? But because we're not still testing enough people, so we don't know how many people are still walking around with this, and when we are testing, the results take a while, right? So, and we don't know what the results are of this lockdown that we are here in the middle of in California yet, right? Got to take 2-3 weeks to figure out that we're really getting the virus kind of out of our systems and not into other people's systems. So we don't know yet. Obviously, everyone wants to go back to work. A lot of businesses and people want that to happen. But we can't until we see the numbers subside and the numbers are delayed. So we don't know. We obviously it's possible. China did it. Hopefully we've learned their lesson, the lessons on their mistakes. I don't think we did. But we got to wait for now. Nobody's enjoying this, obviously. Environmental Canadian says, Alex, watch the story of Mouseland as told by Tommy Douglas in 1944. Oh, a black and white movie on YouTube. All Americans should watch. Tommy Douglas is the most liked Canadian of all time. I think all Canadians are most liked Canadians of all time, right? Maybe except for hockey players, but let's see. Let's see. Brian says, "Come on, are you installing my cheap car? That isn't cheap." Actually, I think Kia Niro EV is one of the best electric car deals out there for the price and for the look and for the mileage. By the way, if you're not a member of, I have a Facebook group for Tesla, Kia, well for Tesla also, but Kia Niro EV owners. So no, I love that car. Absolutely not. Not going to insult any electric car owner unless it's a Prius or BMW i3, but other than that, no. Okay. Let's see. Steve says, I think Elon will call Model 2 Oh, HY to go with hey sexy. I'm sure they'll think of stuff to do. I thought the Model 2 is good because it's Model 2 because it's too sexy, right? You know, like I think that already takes care of itself. Um, Steve says the problem with small business is not that the government funds, is that you need highly trained people in order to get the money, as the paperwork is very complicated. Brian says, I love my Kia Soul EV 2016, headed for over a year now. I just playing, I know. You know, the new Kia Soul EV is actually going to have great range. I've seen it when it was unveiled at the LA Auto Show, but that was like a year ago. Is the Kia EV available? I live around Sacramento. John, I also live here in Sacramento. Kia Niro EV is available in limited numbers, but you can definitely buy one if you really want to. It's a great car. I love it. I think it's great. And on average, it gets better mileage than the EPA. Like when I test drove it, I was able to get like 280 mile on one charge, and I was gunning it. Actually, I was test driving it together. They paired us up. I was doing it with Fred, who's the editor-in-chief of Electrek, and he gunned that car through all of the streets, and we still ended up with really, really good range. But people in my Kia Niro EV group, Facebook group, they report over 300-mile range all the time, just FYI. Environmental Canadian says, no, Alex, Tommy Douglas is the most like Canadian by Canadians. Oh, okay, I got it. Okay, not got it. MG was a British manufacturer in the 60s and 70s. Well, that's probably why I don't know about it, but okay, I'll look it up. The MG is made in China or Japan. We will see if it comes to America. I want to use Kia Niro. So by the way, there's a Kia Niro, which is a gas hybrid, I believe. There's a Kia Niro plug-in hybrid, which I did not enjoy, honestly. It's not even a pure electric mode at all. But the Kia Niro EV, that's a pure electric. That one I love. All right, so guys, I've been streaming for a while. Thank you for how long have I been streaming? For like an hour plus. All right, well, thanks for hanging out with me. My voice is going also because before this, I taped the video with Eli that I'll release on Saturday, but we had to do it twice because somehow, even though I know I pressed the record button, it did not record. So we had to like redo the entire video again. So I'm probably 2 hours of talking. It's 9 o'clock here, so I should probably start thinking about getting myself some dinner. Oh, you know what actually I'm gonna do? Because when I was stocking up on food, that I bought a lot of canned sardines and tomato sauce, but like I left one of them. I was like, okay, if things are gonna start like coming back to the stores, I'm gonna actually eat it myself because I love canned sardines and tomato sauce. So I'm gonna make that. But you know, I really want to do this daily. I used to do this daily as my main video, and now I just kind of like hanging out with you guys. Kind of miss doing that, especially we're all stuck at home, at least most of us. So I'll try to go live tomorrow again. I'm trying different times. I think this turned out to be the most popular one. How many people are watching right now? Like, I don't even know. Let me look at my phone and see. I have to Google my own channel. Let's see. Boom. Electric cars in the US. There's me. Oh, 140 of you are watching. All right, cool. Electrified Future says, Alex, I ordered the Mach E to replace my Model 3. Wow. My wife has the Model X, but can't wait for the new cool EV. Hey, hold that thought, because I got to get off before my voice goes. Plus, I actually have a few other things I have to do. But if you join one of my next following live streams, let's talk about it. I'm actually curious to know why you're replacing a Model 3 with a Mach E. That's very interesting. So, oh, Electrified Future, that's right. Everyone, don't forget to press the like button. It does help, I believe. So I appreciate it. And thank you for super chats, by the way, guys. I really do appreciate it. My revenues are in the toilet. So super chatting, joining my Patreon community definitely helps for someone like me right now. Small business owner that's just as effective as if you were running a sock store. I don't know why I thought about the sock store. Oh, because I passed by a sock store today and I was like, oh my God, they're probably suffering really badly. All right. Let's see. All right, guys. have a safe and healthy the rest of your day. I hope you have a great weekend that's coming up. Use this time to bond with your family. Try not to kill your kids, and you know, just catch up on your lives. You know, maybe take a few classes to better yourselves. That's what I'm doing right now. Maybe if you wanted to have a promotion, you know, sometime in your career, or you're a business owner who wanted to learn a new software or whatever, like this is the time. We will not probably have something like this happen to us, hopefully in the future. But you know, this is a lot of free time that we were given by the universe, and I know a lot of us can really spend it catching up with things. And like, I found a bunch of things around my house that I wanted to fix and clean for a while, and finally got to it. You know, I'm learning two different software applications as well. So, and of course, if you haven't downloaded TikTok, that's a social media heroin right there. You can really spend hours on TikTok if you haven't already. So Environmental Canadian says like button already pressed. I appreciate that. EV Addicted says 2020 Chevy Bolt starts here at $25,000. It's North Virginia. That's not bad. That's right. They're having really huge discount. Isn't this the most affordable EV? No, because at least in the US, the Nissan Leaf is, because it's $30,000 minus all the incentives. I don't know, it is $25,000 after the discounts, before the incentives. But see, GM doesn't have the incentives, the federal government incentive, I believe, at this point. So it's close call there. Let's see. Alex Freeman says, do you think the Model Y will have a terrible sales because of COVID-19? We did discuss it, but we'll discuss it again. Ask that question on the next live stream. I'm gonna try to do it tomorrow. So guys, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, I even have this fancy graphics for you that I did, and boom, right? But if you have already subscribed, seriously, click on the bell notification icon. That's the thing that notifies you when I release the video. So I appreciate that. Environmental Canadian says, go make some food, Alex. You rock, brother. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out. This is so much fun, seriously. Like, I know these videos don't get a lot of views beyond you watching right now, but I have so much fun doing that. So let's do it tomorrow, or at least the next day. I totally am committed to doing that. So all right, thanks so much for hanging out with me, guys, and I will see you very soon right here live. And of course, don't forget to stay charged.